Welcome to the Boat Babe podcast with your favorite boat babe here, Mary Allison. Here we talk boats, DIY projects, and manifestation tips to living your best vacay life on the water. If anything's going to happen, y'all know it. It's going to happen out there. So let's go explore together. Welcome back to another episode of the Boat Babe podcast with your favorite boat babe, Mary Allison, coming straight from the shed. I have Rhiannon finally in the shed at Barber. So the shed is 3 walls without the roof, so I don't have to take my mast off. It's the painting shed, but they usually use it for sandblasting. And so I'm in the shed, and tomorrow is the day, like the last day of painting, the last weather window, the last opportunity. Like, let me tell you, another day, $1 short. Like, this has just been frustrating. Like I had mentioned, I wasn't happy with the paint job that I did on my hull. And so Cody's going to help me tomorrow. Seth is in town. We're just going to wing it starting at 6:30 in the morning. And I've been prepping the cockpit today. So we've decided to paint the cockpit ice blue to match the hull, but the top side of the boat, everything else is going to be snow white. So I think it's going to be really pretty. And then we also decided, or I guess I decided, I said, you know what? I think I want a little bit of sparkle. So I decided I have to have a metallic blue boot stripe. And so we've got that paint in the back of the car. And so that's going to happen at the beginning of the week. This is just a busy week. Okay, let me just back up. First of all, I'm feeling like I'm getting a little under the weather. I don't know what's going on. There's just crud going around. And I slept wrong last night. And you know when you sleep wrong and the only thing that helps is yoga, but then it doesn't actually help because you're like, why am I can't feel my arms. It's just pinching a nerve down my arms. And I never take, I usually just use Deep Relief, from Young Living. And so I took a little Advil and it got me through the day. And then, so I went down, checked on the boat. Yesterday, the guys needed to put it back in the slings, the lift to move it. And they smashed my forestay. And my forestay was already detached. And they smashed it. You could hear it throughout the entire yard. I'm like, really? I've been here for 4 months. I've never heard the lift hit a boat before, and it had to be mine. Why? I had this problem last time. So they had to switch out the lifts, get a bigger lift. But unfortunately, what I've learned I don't know if all yards are like this, but Barber is like this. You sign your life and your boat away when you take your boat out there. If they screw something up, it's still your fault. So, word to the wise, when you haul your boat out, you have to watch what they're doing. You have to watch. You've got to call it out. I screamed at those guys to stop because they didn't even know that. I don't know what the heck they thought. They couldn't have not heard the crash. But so yeah, that was a disaster. And also I have a really hard time with multiple projects at once. And right now downstairs, we are putting in a new hot water heater and it's too much. It's too much for me. The boat is too small to be doing these huge projects at once. And so it's been just one of those 48 hours where it's just a lot. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I'm looking forward to just soaking the boat in as much paint as possible. It's going to look so good. And then I am not exactly sure what the weather's going to look like the rest of the week. It's just everything's been really up in the air and iffy. Today ended up being really weird, misty rain. And on the weather, it said it wasn't going to be. So we'll see what happens if I'm able to do the boot stripe in a couple days. And then one of the guys in the yard is helping with my rudder post. It's almost done. I just had to get some new hose clamps. And then we'll be able to splash and go back in. But on top of it, my dad bought a 60-foot houseboat, lake houseboat, okay? We don't live on a lake. We live on a bay. on the intercoastal that is like yards away from the Gulf. But he decided to buy a slide for my children that just happened to be attached to a 60-foot houseboat. So that's going to be delivered by truck down to Barber on Wednesday. And the guys said that it takes about a day to put it back together. So the truck driver, I guess, comes with, I have no idea, like equipment. I don't know. The way he made it sound, I'm actually really excited to look and see what he does. But it sounds like he comes with another guy. They can drive straight about 8 hours. So they load it. So it's up at Center Hill. Over Center Hill Lake is about an hour east of Nashville. And it's a man-made, it's huge, 60-mile lake, man-made, TWRA, like area. And this houseboat's going to be going to Hurricane, and the way that the ramp is at Hurricane, it's super long, so the truck can, I'm pretty sure the truck can just go in the water and the houseboat can go on it, just like you would put a boat, on the, like a trailer. So, but they have to take it all apart. I mean, they have to take down the entire top of this boat. And I don't know how it fits on the road. I mean, it's 16 feet wide. So, or more. I think it actually might be a little bit bigger. So that's going to be trucked down Wednesday. They're going to put it together. They've got to be finished by Thursday because they've got to put it in the shed where I am. And the guys at Barber are going to sandblast the bottom, and then I'm going to go sand the sides. And with help from Cody and Seth, we're going to roll the bottom and give it a bottom job, because right now it's just straight aluminum, and aluminum, on freshwater is totally fine, but down here it won't last forever. So we are going to use Seahawk paint. I was hoping we could use Micron 66, but that's what I've got on my boat, but they aren't making it anymore. And so we kind of got the whole gist of what has to happen, but it just has to happen really quick. So I'm hoping my paint job's going to be finished before this even starts. And then we can basically both splash at the same time. And so Dad's boat's going to go next to me. So it'll be a lot of fun. I won't have Eagle next to me. Like, I totally planned that we'd have matching paint jobs, but it's fine. We'll go out together at another time. But I'm excited for the houseboat. I think it's going to be really fun for, it'll be just really fun for everybody. I mean, it'll be such a fun party boat. And I'm excited to have, like, tons of people laying out on the top and the grill going. And then, my parents haven't gotten to people watch at Pirates Cove, where our boat is. Like, they haven't gotten to enjoy, like, just the debauchery of, honestly, of like beach bar life, because Eagle, first of all, like, you sit on the aft deck and it faces away from everyone. And then it's like too nice of a boat to put chairs on the front and look around, So they're excited. I'm excited. It'll be really fun. And honestly, I think the biggest thing that I'm excited about is that I just get to work on another boat. It's like one more project. I love it. Okay. But that is not what this episode's about today. Okay, guys, this episode is about the do's and don'ts of boating. Basically, like, how much experience or knowledge do you need to buy a boat or a sailboat or a yacht? And this is just my opinion. This is from me being on the water since I was a little kid, being professionally working on the water for over 20 years, and being a captain for over 15 years. And so I hope this is entertaining. I hope that you learn some stuff from what I'm about to say, because I tried to make it comical, and it's only because I see so much insanity out there on the water, and I'm like, what qualified that person to actually put their credit card down and buy a boat? Okay, so let's start. And we're going to start off with boats, okay? This is center consoles, Tennessee redneck boats, like those, I don't know, bay liners, Mastercraft, I don't know, whatever you want. These are just boats. And the first thing that I thought about was, let's start from the beginning, okay? You've got your boat on the trailer, and I'm sure that you've seen those boat fails videos from boat launches where guys have absolutely no idea how to back their boat down a ramp. They're taking up everybody's time. They're being filmed. It's embarrassing. They're jackknifing their boat. They have no clue what to do. And all in the middle of it, they're embarrassed as crap because they're lost on how to get their boat in the water. You've got to take the time to practice with somebody who knows what they're doing. And in this community of any kind of boaters, okay, you could go up to somebody. Like, let's say you get your boat to the ramp and you're lost and you're, realizing this is just too much. You're not exactly sure what to do. Maybe you didn't drive trailers growing up, whatever. If you go up to some guy putting his boat in and you say, hey, can I learn from you? Or, hey, can I sit in your passenger seat? Or can you show me exactly, like, I need help. Nobody is going to laugh at you and say no. Like, that's just not what this is about. Everybody's willing to help from my experience. So go ask for help. Put your ego aside and say, hey, I need help putting my boat in the water. This is the first time I've ever done it. Give me the lowdown. And a lot of times when you buy a new boat, like, you can ask the dealer those questions. You could just say, hey, do you know anybody to help me? Or just go practice on a Monday when nobody's at the boat launch. Like, put it in and out and out like 10 times just to get the hang of it. So when you are in a crowded setting and you have maybe only 5 minutes to put your boat in, get your shit ready, and then get out, that you don't look like an idiot. The second thing that kind of goes hand in hand with this, remember to put your plug in. And I'm only telling you this because I've forgotten. Like, I was teaching a couple on it was a small sailboat. I can't exactly, it was like a little Capri. It was like a Catalina Capri. And 14 feet, I guess. And I did not check all the plugs in that boat. And we were out sailing. This was in Newport Beach. And I did a lot of like couples training because, first of all, it helps with your marriage. And second of all, it's a fun sport to learn. And we got halfway. Okay, so first of all, Newport Beach, it's the largest small boat harbor in the world. And I can't remember how long it is, but I mean, it's well over a mile or two or even more from one end to the other, like to the inlet. So I had this couple on the boat and the wife is like, I just feel like we're sinking. And I'm like, no, I think we're totally fine. Like, I don't think we're sinking. And probably like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I think we're sinking. And she goes, are you sure? And I'm like, yes, I know we're sinking. And I said, it was like, get your shit, we gotta go. And so we got everything like that they brought, which wasn't a whole lot, thank goodness. I eyed the U.S. Coast Guard dock, and by the time our nose hit the dock, the entire boat went under as I cleated it. So put your plug in. And let's say you forget to put your plug in. From my experience watching people sink all the time, you have about a quarter of a mile before your boat, the back end goes under. And so you won't start to notice for a while and then till it's too late. And what a lot of people do is they just go as fast as they can and beach it. But by that time, that quarter mile to half mile range, your engine's still going to go under. So put your plug in. Okay, the next thing, y'all have got to throw out the term, oh, it's just a boat. You've got to throw it out the window. If you hear people say that, freaking smack them. Because I'm like, that makes no sense. Like, would you say that about anything else? Would you say like, oh, it's just a house. Oh, it's just a car. Oh, it's just 60 grand. Oh, it's just 160 grand. Oh, it's just 500 grand. Like, that's what you're saying. So stop with the language that boats are meant to be destroyed and just drank on, I guess, because I hear it so often and it makes me so sad because you can literally buy, let's say, I don't know, a whaler that's a couple years old, that's in really great condition, and you can make it look like that for the next 20 to 30 years. So throw that out the window. Whenever you try to catch yourself trying to be lackadaisical, it's cool. Let's just have some beers. It's just a boat. No worries. It's fine. Like, have some boundaries when it comes to boating. For example, I do not allow sand on my boat whatsoever, and I'll freak the F out if somebody has sandy feet on my boat. I tell them to turn. I don't care who they are. I'm like, turn around. That's why there's a shower out there. And no shoes. Take your freaking shoes off. That's gross. Like, you could have stepped in something in the parking lot, and then you're bringing it on, like, just a space that's clean, like where you're lounging in a bikini, you know? So it's just a boat is not a thing, because if you're going to treat it as something that it's not and like less than it is, it's going to slowly deteriorate, and people are going to start taking advantage of you, knowing that they can just come and get hammered on their boat, and you're just going to pick up the pieces after them. So if you have respect for your boat, other people are also going to have respect for your boat. Let's go on to the next little dot that I have here. If you are attempting to dock or beach your boat and you nearly run some swimmers over, as you're barely missing, and if you're barely sideswiping a 40-foot Freeman because you can't figure out the whole throttle situation, and then as you finally successfully beach your boat or dock and you yell, "Roll Tide," as you're popping your first or fifth beer, you probably shouldn't own a boat. So we live in Alabama, and you're either an Auburn fan, War Eagle, you know, or an Alabama fan, Roll Tide. I don't watch sports, so it's fun to just watch people who like sports. But one thing I've noticed, you cannot get yourself in tricky situations if you don't know how to drive your boat. First of all, it's really dangerous. And second of all, it's really expensive and really disrespectful to people who do know how to drive their boat if you have no idea how to maneuver. And yelling "Roll Tide" once you get there and just hopping off the boat like nothing's wrong, it just makes you look like an idiot. But it's why I live where I live. I love watching these people. Okay, spray sunscreen is a no-go. Like, just be that really mean person that's like, "Hey, I don't allow spray sunscreen," just like you're not going to allow shoes, okay? So it will make your boat, spray sunscreen, like whatever chemicals in it, it will make your boat super slippery, and it'll also start to kill your paint or your gel coat. It turns it like yellow, and it's also just really bad for the environment. So just throw that out. So I've never had issues with tanning oil, and for all you ladies out there, if you get, this is totally side note, guys, I'm so sorry. If you get spray tans and you want to use a tanning oil, you have to avoid mineral oil, because mineral oil that's in the tanning oil, and like most of them at the grocery store, that will take your tan off, by the way. So stick to like coconut oil or carrot seed oil or something like that. Okay. This is a huge deal. And it's something that we deal with on our sea hunt. So you can't see out glass windshields on, like, let's say a center console. You can't see out of it at night. It is incredibly dangerous. So our sea hunt is a 2019, and I think it was the last year that they made the windshields out of like really high-end plexiglass. Like, you'd think it's glass, but it's not. And I think my dad's sea hunt's like a 22, I think. Maybe. His is made out of glass. Same issue. Any reflection in those windshields from your dash will just reflect into your eyes and back on the glass. Like, it's just a disaster of lights. You can't see. So at night when I drive, I'm super hesitant to drive anywhere at night, obviously, for obvious reasons. But I have to drive with my head out in, the 45 mile per hour wind coming at my face while trying to navigate, watching my GPS and my charts to stay in the channel and hope to miss boats that probably, like don't have their lights on, or, it's just hard. It's really hard to navigate at night. But just be aware that if you buy a boat, most likely a center console where it's got the enclosed glass, like the three-quarter, created glass up front, you cannot see out of it. So just be careful. Okay, so for your boat to be maneuverable, you have to have your motor down. This seems like total common sense, but I watch this constantly where people will beach their boat or they'll get off, they'll get off the trailer and into the water. They don't put their motor down and they have no way of maneuvering and they have no clue why. So just look backwards. You have to get in the habit of looking backwards. And that's something another captain taught me. He was like, you have to get in the habit of looking backwards because people will sneak up on you and you don't even realize it. So put your motor down and you will be able to maneuver. And also, this one's pretty big. You have to wear your lanyard. And I know it's annoying. It's kind of like being the only person in the boat wearing a seatbelt, and you're just like, no, it's totally fine. Like, I'm cool. There's too many big boats out there these days with their wake is so big. It's not like it was in the early 2000s where it was like the biggest center console out there was maybe 28 feet. Like, you have 60-foot like HCBs now out there running, 60 knots. Like, and thankfully a lot of, the catamaran style center consoles, they don't throw a lot of wake. But then you have everything in between that does, and it's really, really dangerous. Also, wearing your lanyard shows your kids that they have to wear their lanyard, and it's just totally worth it. There's too many boats where people fly out and the boat continues to keep going with their family. So wear your lanyard. It's always a good idea. And also don't put your lanyard on your wrist. I've done that before where I was wearing like a small bikini or something. I just couldn't attach it to my body very easily. So I just, put it around my wrist. And then as I'm steering, because you don't pay attention, like when you're steering, I wrapped the lanyard like around the steering wheel like 15 times. And I was like, oh my God, I can't even maneuver. So yes. Anyway. Okay. And this one is for you parents out there. I know that having your kids on the boat is so much fun. Getting your tube is just wonderful. Like, you're so excited. The whole family's enjoying the day. Y'all are going to go tubing. But do not tube in a busy area. I see this quite a bit where parents will be tubing their kids in really congested and really uncomfortably bumpy areas, like with tons of waves. And it is so unsafe. Like, no matter if they're being watched, there are people out there that have had, a dozen beers driving their boat, or they just don't have a clue what they're doing. They'll clip that line so fast and snap that in half and run your kids over in less than a second. So go back in the bayou, go find a good, find somewhere where nobody is, like a good place where skiers would go, and go have fun back there and just stay out of the way of the congestion. Okay, so basically they're just like the no-goes of boat ownership when you're buying a center console or something small. And I would love to hear your opinion, and I would love to hear what you have to add to this list on my Instagram at thatboatbabe. I'm sure that you've got some really fun experiences like I have. But right now we're going to move on to sailboats. First of all, know that every single power boater person out there that you see will see you as a cheap, environmentally clean liberal with an attitude in your sailboat. And you might absolutely hate me for saying that, but I'm sorry, I'm not wrong. Because a lot of times it's true. Yes, sailboats have the right of way because we're, sailing, and we're constricted in our ability to maneuver because of our draft, but no one really cares. So smile and wave as you blow someone out of the water with your air horn that you keep in your cockpit. But just know, the second you buy a sailboat, every motorboater is going to hate you. And this is the next one. If you have water in your bilge, get all of it out. And this drives me absolutely crazy. I'll see people on forums asking about this. Like, people think, okay, water is meant to be on the outside of your boat. It's not meant to be on the inside of your boat. And there's too many people out there that think, oh, it's a boat, so water's going to be in the bilge. No. Like, there shouldn't be water in your bilge. And if there is water in your bilge, if you know where it's coming from, okay, Like, I get it. For example, my forward air conditioning unit on my sailboat, the like condensation pan, drain, the hose, it doesn't drain it all the way into my sump box. And I don't have it set to drain overboard right now. So if I run my forward air conditioning, I'll have like 2 inches of water within a couple days in my bilge. And for me, that's like 15 gallons. And so if you look down in your bilge and you have water, there's either a seal that's got a problem, you have a water tank leak, you've got it's rainwater, and this can go with every boat, like across the board. So just know, like, get a shop vac, get like the last bit of that water out, because I have had friends finally clean out their bilge water and realize that it was full of parasites, like tiny little worms swimming everywhere, and it will actually start to grow like disgusting algae and attract cockroaches. Okay, the next one is, oh, no, you know what? I'm going to back up and add on to that. So there are certain sailboats out there like Beneteau and maybe Catalina. Don't quote me on those. They're keel bolted. So those bolts, your keel is bolted to your hull, which sounds absolutely freaking batshit crazy to me. Like, what? So if you leave water in your bilge, those bolts will rust over time, and you will not survive at sea when your boat flips upside down in the blink of an eye because the keel broke off. So definitely keep your keel bolts dry, and check your look into your through holes. Just make sure they're not leaking. Open and close them as often as you can. And yeah, okay. The next little dot I have, you have to know your mast height, you guys. If you're a sailor, know your freaking mast height. Too many sailboats are hitting bridges lately because they forget to look up. So in the intercoastal, most of the bridges are 64 feet. Some parts of it, they're 50 feet. And then you have some of the bridges that are 70 feet. And so, for example, like Perdido Pass, that bridge is 50 feet. Like, there's no freaking way. There's a couple sailboats that I've seen go out, but they're like smaller, 35 foot sailboats. 64 feet in the intercoastal. That's why most sailboats, like for me, I have a 62-foot clearance. And so my boat was built for charter. It was built to be in the intercoastal if it needed to be. I can fit under basically anything. And then you've got the 70-foot bridges, which is nice. But I mean, we had a Catalina. No, I take that back. We had a huge, I don't remember what kind, catamaran next to me for a while. They had come up from Tortola, and I think they had got misplaced, just kind of like we had after Hurricane Irma. And their mast was, I think, exactly 70 feet. So they had to wait a really long time, like till it was that crazy November low tide, and then wait for the low tide of the season to be able to get to Pensacola and go out the pass, because they were trying to get to Fort Lauderdale to sell their boat. Also, know your draft and ask others for local knowledge when you're unsure of any shifting shoals. So, like, I have a 6-foot draft. Like, I'm going to hit for sure at 6 feet, 6'2". So after storms, the sand shifts so much, and what's on the chart 6 months ago, or even what's on your navigation chart, like your line, your plot, like chart plotter line 6 months ago, likely is not the same as today. Sorry, that's Rerun. He's barking. So ask local people, local knowledge, ask just for any kind of suggestions, because it's better safe than sorry, basically. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to touch on with sailboats is, and this can honestly be towards any boat, but before you do any overnights on your boat or move aboard, take everything off of your boat in inventory and organize. I know it sounds annoying, and I've seen people skip this step just out of excitement, and they're just like, no, I've got to move on. I'm so excited. Or maybe they're in a time crunch and they like have to move aboard. But I swear, if you take a day to go through your boat from bow to stern, take everything off, put everything in the wash. Like, if your boat came with towels, if it came with carpets or a rug, like, take everything. take it to the laundry, get some, we use Thieves on our boat from Young Living because it's an essential oil based cleaner and it cleans as good as bleach or better. And it also doesn't dry out your wood. But I mean, go through cabinets and drawers. Make sure there's no cockroaches. You will be able to find if there's any rain leaks or any rot or, I mean, it's just worth it instead of piling your stuff in there on top of basically just stuff. For example, my boat came with everything under the sun to repair anything. Every single drawer is packed, but I went through an inventory and organized everything at first. And then I tend to inventory and organize every 6 months or a year because a lot of stuff goes out of date. And there's a lot of things that I learn that I'm like, oh my gosh, I had no clue what this was even for when I bought the boat. And now I totally understand why it's here. You can find some of the coolest, handiest things on your boat that you didn't realize are there if you just take the time to inventory before you actually move on. Okay, and yeah, that kind of goes back to like you'll be able to, clean out your bilge, figure out if there's water in your bilge, where it's coming from, and all that stuff. Okay, so if you live in an area primarily with motorboats or sport fish, good luck finding anyone to work on your boat. And I'm talking to you sailboaters. You are now, quote, cheap with a boat that is nearly impossible to work on. And unfortunately, it's kind of true. And so most people see sailors as, like I said, up top, like, a couple of minutes ago, as cheap. We don't want to pay for the work that we get done. And our boats are really, really hard to work on. And so, unfortunately, that's just our reputation. I mean, I've never been to Annapolis. I'm assuming up there's so many sailors that it's a no-brainer. Like, they've got it down pat. But if you're in an area like where I am, everybody pays super high dollar to have their boats taken care of because they do the tournaments. They're all 60-foot sport fishes. And so when I show up and I'm like, hey, I just need to get my generator serviced, they look at me like, first of all, you're a girl. Are you going to pay us? And is your generator in a hole? And I get it. I mean, I have seen a lot of sailors or a lot of sailboat owners just half-ass the whole lifestyle of sailing. And I don't know if it's because they just enjoy sailing, but they don't enjoy taking care of their boat, which can just go all across the board, with any boat. But I'm just telling you how it is, okay? Okay, next one. Buddy boat and take suggestions as much as possible. Buddy boat. Get somebody who knows the area and buddy boat with them. If you pull up into an anchorage, meet somebody on the dinghy. If they're having a cocktail or eating dinner on their boat, on the deck, just say, hey, oh my gosh, like, my name's so-and-so. My Instagram is this. Like, where are you going? Let's keep up. Because they could be going in the same direction as you, have a deeper draft than you do, and you'll be able to gain a lot of local knowledge from them. And like, let's say you have an issue, you can always call or radio them to say, hey, I need help. I don't know what's going on. Like, I'm having an oil leak in my generator, or, it's not holding pressure. My starter isn't working today. I mean, it's just this community, especially the sailing community, is rarely meant to be done alone. And usually, unless you have a ton of experience, like, it can become really dangerous. Okay, next little dot. Open and close all your seacocks regularly. So I have not done this on my boat. Unfortunately, I have 21 through holes on my boat. I think like 11 or more are under the water, which, yes, that's insane. And a lot of them are original, and a lot of them are really hard to get to. Like, it's just not something you even think about. And so there has been times where I'm trying to close a seacock and I'm like, shoot, this is going to have to be a project. I'm going to have to do it on another season, but I've got to replace some seacocks. And I've had to do my air conditioning seacock before because it was just constantly open and close and open and close, trying to clean out my sea strainer, cleaning out fish that had gotten clogged in the lines because there wasn't a grate over my air conditioning intake. So open and close your seacocks regularly, and don't freak out if a tiny bit of water flows, like drips from your seacock when you're opening or closing it. It's fine. It's normal. Okay, last but not least, if you need to reef your sails, meaning if you need to pull your mainsail down a hair to minimize your sail space, or you need to maybe, pull in your jib just a little bit so you have less sail space with your jib, then you're too late. So let me repeat that. If you need to reef your sails, then you're too late. Reef way before you need to reef. And that is because if you get to the point in your boat where you're like, shit, I need a reef, that means the wind has picked up to the point where it's probably going to be unmanageable for you and let's say your spouse to get up there, reef your sail, and safely continue like trudging through whatever weather shift just happened. So that's just a helpful tip that I was taught years ago. So reef sooner than you think. Do not sail beyond your sailing ability. When I bought my boat, they not permanently, but pretty much, they sailed with a reefed main everywhere. And their reason was the wife really enjoyed cooking downstairs and didn't like the boat being heeled over really far. But they also had I've got a huge Genoa. So they throw out the Genoa and then just reef the main and motor sail most of the time. But yeah, like if you're unsure about, or if you start to feel like, oh shoot, I'm in over my head, like, yeah, I promise you're not going to look stupid for being safe and taking care of yourself. Like no sailor out there is going to give you crap for taking the safe route. So that's the end of the bullet points. God, that's the freaking word I've been looking for this whole freaking time. My bullet points. That is the end of the sailing bullet points that I have. But just like I said with boats, I would love to hear your opinion. Give me a nice opinion. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, great. Keep it to yourself. But if you have something to add, like I totally want to hear it. So comment on my Instagram. You can do it on the post or just message me and I'll repost you. But what you think, if any of these have rung true to you as a sailor, I totally want to know. Okay, the next area of boating is the yachting industry, one of my favorites. Yes, I was a stewardess for a few years. I had a yacht detail business, then I managed yachts, and I've been freelance captain on yachts and permanent captain on yachts, and I have an absolute love for this industry to an extent. It can be pretty cutthroat, especially down like in Fort Lauderdale area. But I love the hospitality side of this industry because it mixes two of my favorite passions, which is hospitality and boating, yachting, sailing. So, okay, let's begin with my bullet points around buying your first yacht. So great. You've bought a yacht. A boat over 50 feet long is considered a yacht. And now you have a monthly maintenance bill of over 10% of the value of the boat, and a project that will never, ever, ever, ever end. Insurance does not care if you have your captain's license, by the way. So all y'all owners out there that are like, I'm going to forge my hour. I hate when they say this is no, typical. I'm going to forge my hours and get my captain's license. Okay, first of all, it's days. It's days at sea. Nobody understands or remembers this. And if you are not educated on what it actually takes to get your captain's license, it's days at sea. A day at sea is considered 4 hours outside of the mile marker. So do not forge your hours or days to try to get your 6-pack so you think that you know what you're doing and you can get your captain's license. Insurance only cares if you've owned a boat like the one that you're wanting to buy or you have just bought before. So for example, when I bought my sailboat, nobody wanted to insure me until I met my dad's insurance. He owned the insurance company and he reminded me that I was one of the owners of my dad's yachts because I'm in his family. On paper, maybe I wasn't necessarily the owner. I think it was actually in an LLC anyway. But he was like, I know you've grown up on this boat. You were the captain of this boat. Your family owned this boat. So he was like, I'm putting this boat down as your previous boat that you owned. And I was able to get insurance quickly and it was so fast and easy, and it was a really good policy at that time when Geico was actually taking boaters or taking sailboats and boats over a certain age and a certain length, and now they just dropped everybody. But anyway, so it's really honestly, it's about who you know in the industry. And so there's a guy, there's a boat right next to my dad's boat, and it's a brand new owner. He's 39 years old. He's got a 60-foot, I think I've mentioned this, I think it's a Viking. He's never owned a boat before. He owned a pontoon boat. So he spends 40 grand a year just in boat insurance. And his deductible is probably double that. So when you're talking with insurance, make sure that you have an agreed value and not a cash value plan, if that's an option. Unfortunately, with older boats, most likely you're just going to get a cash value plan, and that just means they're going to give you what they think your boat is worth in cash. That's a big gray area. Is it worth that much in cash before it sunk or after? It's up to them. You're really a cash value insurance policy is basically, let's say you had some damage from a storm. Great. They're going to help you out with, fixing it. Let's say you, had some damage that happened to a dock and the marina is coming after you for money. Great, you've got insurance. Or if there's an injury, that's awesome. But let's say you total your boat, it's really not going to pay you what even close to the value of your boat, and it's not going to come close to paying for a new boat for you. So if you can get an agreed value policy, that is the best policy to get. Go on any of the forums. It's a really great spot to ask. Like if you have a Catalina or if you like mine's an Endeavor, go on those forums and ask people what insurance they carry, because they're going to point you in the right direction. Because most likely if they're dropped by somebody and picked up by somebody else, like there's a reason. They can tell you why, tell you who to call, how much they're paying, what they, all the policy details. Okay. Also, you need to add, what is your named storm plan? And this just means writing an email to like your insurance broker or just to insurance and just saying, hey, can you file this? This is my insurance plan. And that's just kind of an extra form of protection for you. Let's say if something does happen during a hurricane and somebody comes at you saying you drug, you hit their boat, maybe you had a huge detrimental accident and insurance is saying that you weren't prepared. Well, you can say, hey, this is my insurance plan. You checked it off. That's what I did. We're good to go, right? So it's just one more thing. And that could include doing a haul out, like for me, tying to trees. You can flee the country. That's a huge one. A lot of people do, especially in the Bahamas or down in the Caribbean. If you are in the Caribbean these days, the only way to get a decent hurricane plan is to go to Grenada or south of Grenada and during hurricane season, which now it just seems like it's over half of the year. Okay. The next bullet point, hire a captain, which I know you might have just bought your boat. You're super excited. You're like, no, it's only 50 feet. It's fine. It's going to be just like my little Bayliner I just owned. No, hire a captain, even if he's just a freelance captain for the nights that you want to go out and hang out with your family. So unless you grew up on boats and yachts, or have a huge passion for navigation and enough experience under your belt to rescue anyone aboard if there's an emergency, hire a captain. It makes your boating or yachting experience so much better, especially if you have family on board that maybe they're not really sure if they're on board for the whole, boat you just bought, or maybe they get seasick. Like, hire a captain just so you can pay attention to your friends and family and you're not worrying about maneuvering, driving at night, docking, wind, current, everything else. If you don't, this is a really big deal, okay? You can have a really good time with your new yacht, or you can have a really shitty time with your new yacht. And it could be because of your captain. So if you don't get along with your new captain, check yourself. Ask, is this my ego? Do I think I know more than this guy? Is he like hitting on my wife? Okay, that's a totally different subject. I'm not talking about. I'm talking about if you can't stand to be on your own boat because your captain is there, fire your captain that day. Because in this industry, everybody talks. It is way too small. So if you keep your captain going, they're going to sense that you don't like them. You're not going to sense that you're not going to be there. Y'all just clash heads. And the second that he hops off that boat, he's going to go around and tell everybody else how crazy of an owner you are and not to work for you. So you don't want to ruin your reputation as much as your captain doesn't want their reputation ruined either. So the earlier you let your captain go, the better. Okay, next bullet point. Your personal problems. Your personal problems, stay with your flip-flops on the dock. Whether you have fishing crew, captain mate team, captain, chef, stew, deckhands, engineers, whatever, keep your personal issues off of your boat. And I know this can be really hard because there's a lot of owners out there that just want to get away from their everyday life and come vent. I mean, it's easy. It's just human nature. You meet somebody, you get to know them, you want to shoot the shit, and you vent your life. But this industry, in that setting, is not the place to do it. Unless it is specifically stated in a contract with your crew that let me start over. If it's specifically stated that your crew are paid friends, great, you have the green light. If it is not specifically stated in a contract that your crew are not your paid friends, then they're not your paid friends. Like, they have a job to do, even if it means getting your Metamucil out for you in the morning to go with your morning cup of joe. They are not there to be your sounding board about how much you hate your wife and think that every time she and the kids come aboard, you are going to a funeral. True story. Okay. Okay, next bullet point. Do not purposely, I don't even want to freaking mention this because it pisses me off. Do not purposely run coral over with your effing dinghy. Okay, I'm not kidding. Let me repeat it. Do not purposely run coral over. Don't do it. Do not draw smiley faces on brain coral. Just don't. If you need to leave your mark that bad on somewhere, that bad, donate to a local organization and ask them to put your name all over the building. But do not run the coral over. I had an owner who would do this, and it would drive me freaking crazy because, so let's say, for example, here in a bay, like where we are in Perdido, when the water is really dark, it's really deep. When the water is really light, it's really shallow. When you go outside of the country, like in the Bahamas, when the water is really light, it's really deep. And when it's dark, it's really shallow, usually meaning there's a coral head. So I had an owner who I would love to just call out right now, but I won't. He would drive his Novi all the time over the coral. And he would just run him over because he thought it was funny. And then every single time he went diving, he would write a smiley face or draw a shape in the brain coral and freaking kill it. Pardon my congestion in my chest. So don't do that. Don't. Like, if you are an owner, come on, just have more decency than that. Like, you're just going to be labeled as a total jerk. And that's really not what you need to add to the yachting industry. Add some good stuff to it. You know, there's so many ways that you can use your boat and your crew and all the fun toys to help people. Let's not start off on a bad foot. Anyway, moving on. Okay, if you don't have the decency, God, this one's going to get me heated. Again, if you don't have the decency to pump your black water tank out at the dock, at the pumping station, don't buy a yacht. Leaving the dock and dumping your tank in whatever body of water is closest is the biggest dick move and freaking gross. Okay, the previous owner, the one I was just talking about, he had a stepdaughter, I guess. She actually worked in South Florida with dolphins trying to heal herpes in their eyes and their blowholes. So every single time that you think you're just, going to dump your black water tank overboard, it's no big deal. Like, dolphins have herpes, human herpes. This isn't like something that's just a disease from dolphins. Like, human herpes are infesting sea life. So just go to the pump out station. It's really not that difficult. And if you really can't do that, go far offshore. Go in the Gulf Stream. Go somewhere else. The laws, unfortunately, most areas. Florida's more strict. I mean, certain areas are more strict, but for the most part, you can just dump your black water tank in the back of a bayou. It doesn't matter. But just don't do that. We had a guy once at Pirates Cove, and I won't say his boat's name. He pulled up. I was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "Oh, I just had to run and dump my tank." And I'm like, wait, like, you literally could have just gone in the Gulf and gone a couple miles offshore. Or you could have gone to Bear Point. Like, you could have fit in there. And instead, no, he went right in front of me and dumped his black water tank. So if you own a yacht, just please think about where your shit is going to go before you decide to put it in the water. Okay, this bullet point's actually really, really important. And a lot of people who are inexperienced in the yachting industry or think they can manage their own boat without a captain, they don't realize this. But your wake is your responsibility. So if you are running a huge wake and you don't slow down for another boat coming your way, or maybe you wake a fisherman or a kid tubing, or you're trying to pass somebody just hauling ass and you damage their boat, they fly out of the boat, they lose control and hit the bank, it's your responsibility and you will be prosecuted. So that goes back to the whole hire a captain situation, just to take the responsibility off of you. Let's say you're just wanting to have a day with your family. Maybe you want to have a beer. Just hire somebody else to drive your boat so you don't get yourself in a really, really permanent bad situation like that. Okay, this is the last one about yachts. And this one can probably be universal, but your docking ability or lack thereof is not your wife's fault. I see this so many times where men put their wives in the most horrible docking and trailering situations and then freak out when these women can't attempt to do whatever the heck they have told them to do. So if you cannot dock your boat alone, then you don't have enough experience to own a boat, no matter the size. Because think about it, if you're offshore one day sailing and let's say your partner or your crew member falls down the stairs and breaks a leg and you need to emergency head into some marina and you can't dock the boat by yourself, then you shouldn't be driving that boat. And same with a pontoon boat. I mean, if you can't just allow your wife or your kids or your guests to sit there, enjoy their lunch or their cocktails, and you dock the boat alone, and I'm talking about in any type of docking situation. I've done it. So if you cannot dock your boat by yourself, you should not have that boat. Or you need to have a best friend that you can teach or somebody can teach y'all to learn how to dock yourself. And I'm even talking about this with a yacht. I've done this also too. If you can't dock that yacht by yourself, then you shouldn't do it because you never know what's going to happen one day if you're down a crew and it's an emergency. But do not blame your wife for your inability to dock. Well, that sums up my bullet point list, and I really hope that y'all enjoyed it. I hope it was entertaining. I really hope that y'all could relate to some of the bullet points that I talked about. And if you can, like I said, go to That Boat Babe on Instagram, and I can't wait to hear about your stories, and I'll repost what you share with me in my story. But I hope you have an amazing rest of your day. I am so sorry that I am late putting this podcast episode out, but boat projects got me behind yesterday and way overwhelmed. So I am going to call it a night. I'm going to be spraying with the guys in the morning. And follow this podcast and give it 5 stars. If you take a screenshot of this podcast and add it to your story or post it on your Instagram, Twitter, social media, whatever, and I'm on that platform, tag me and then I'll repost it. Anything helps. Any positive reviews and any wonderful comments always make me smile. So I hope y'all have an absolutely wonderful rest of your week, and I can't wait to chat with you again next week. Okay, I love you. Bye.